What's going on, guys? It's your boy, the Boxing Lowdown here, and this is it, man. It is fight night. Errol Spence and Terence Crawford. The countdown is officially on, people. I'm delighted to be joined. As always, you know what it is, man. My co-host is here in the building. Laurie from AFTV in the house. And you know what? We've got another special guest joining our stream today, all the way over there from Las Vegas, man. Can't wait to get him onto this show. It's been a minute, but Shane is in the house. Shane, what are you saying, my bro?
Thanks for having me back, man. I ain't been on in a minute, and I'm very, very glad because at one stage I didn't think that I would ever come back on the show. So I'm glad the show's back and up and running. I'm glad that you're definitely one of the best at what you do. So I'm glad we finally got one of the real boxing minds talking, especially in the UK, because it's rare to find. So I'm glad to be back, man.
Good to have you here, my bro. Good to have my dad over here. We've already got people in the comments. We've got my guy Michael Maxwell in the chat. He said here he's ready for the big one. Michael Maxwell, you know how it goes, bro. Listen, man, let me just kick it off before I go on to YouTube. But we're finally here, man. Errol Spence, Terence Crawford for the undisputed welterweight championship of the world. The countdown is officially on, people. I can't contain my excitement. I've been literally walking around the house not knowing what to do today, just thinking about the fight tonight. I've had all sorts of possibilities go through my head about how the fight's going to go. And I'm just going to throw it out there. Shane, I know you're in Las Vegas, so I'm going to have to get some of your insights on this. But I'm just saying, for me, personally, this is as big as it gets. I mean, I haven't been this excited for a fight. I was going to say Mayweather and Pacquiao. I was going to say that, but this might even exceed that excitement for me.
Could I just say something before Shane comes in? I think it's important.
Yeah. I'll just finish, yeah. But for me, I can't contain my excitement for this. I have to say that this, for me, even exceeds the excitement for Mayweather Pacquiao, because that happened a few years too late. Some might say that this is happening a bit late, but for me, yeah, this is it. This is the Super Bowl of boxing right here. Laurie, I'll let you talk.
Yeah, before we start on the Spence Crawford, and shout out to Shane, he's out there. Big up yourself, man, for being out there. And, I'm sure you're going to bring us all the insights. But I just want to say, I just want to start off the stream by congratulating Caleb Plant, because overnight he went to 23-2 with 14 KOs with with a one-shot KO finish over Jamal Charlo. That listen, man, big up Caleb Plant, man. You done the world of boxing a big favour. I just want to say that. Shout out to Caleb Plant. Overnight, he went to 23-2, 14 KOs. Bitch slap, left hook, crumb cross, all over, done. Jamel Correa, done, finished, great.
Wait, let's just jump in here, because Francisco's just jumped in straight with the smoke, Laurie, man. He said that you've been beating around the bush. You're not really giving your honest opinion and your pick. He said on Dion's show, you went Crawford.
I did.
Then when you went in depth with me, you picked Spence. Are we getting your definitive pick tonight? That's what Francisco's saying. Are we going to get?
You know what that is, Francisco? I did think about that, because I probably got a bit caught up in the moment. When I made that prediction with Spence, and remember I had on my Reggae Girls t-shirt on, didn't I? I had on my football top. Shout out to the Reggae Girls, they won again today.
Yeah.
So I was probably feeling that Jamaican vibe, but I'll give my prediction at the end of this show. I'll give my prediction.
Okay. Well, let's go to Shane, man. Shane, you're out there, bro. You're out there in Las Vegas. You're there amongst the crowd. You're there. Just talk to us about the atmosphere, what the feeling is like. Who have you seen? Like, was you there at the weigh-in? Like, talk to us, man.
So I don't. Hopefully, you don't mind if I go. I might go into like a small story. So yeah, I've been out here since I've been out here since Thursday. So obviously landed in on Thursday. Obviously, I'm here for the big fight. And just to answer your question or your statement, or to add more, concrete evidence. The reason why I say this is the biggest fight, and I said this to Laurie, it's the biggest fight of my life. I'm 25 years old, and I can't vividly remember a fight bigger than this. Now, the reason why I say that is because someone might say Mike Tyson Lennox, but that was Mike Tyson before, Mike Tyson's past his prime. But the other fight you bring up is Floyd and Manny. And the thing with this is, I think with Floyd and Manny, once you removed your passion, it was very easy to call Mayweather was going to win that fight. because we saw Manny get knocked out by Marquez. We saw a steady decline in Manny. Plus, not to mention the fact that it wasn't for all the belts. You see what I'm saying? So the fact that it's for all the belts, and we're seeing the two best fighters, and I know you said it might be past their prime, but we haven't seen any decline in any of the fighters. So even though Crawford is older, I would probably say he has less miles on the clock because he's had the easier fights. So for me, it's as 50-50 as it gets. And I'm like Laurie. I don't blame Laurie for going from one pillar to post, because I've done that. I've gone from pillar to post.
Yeah.
Bro, I've said it multiple times. This is the first fight I've ever seen where it's 50-50 for everything. It's 50-50 in terms of who can get the knockout. I can see a scenario where both of them knock each other out. And it's 50-50 where both of them could win on points. Literally, it's 50-50 across the board. So it is one of those type of fights. And someone said, am I going to the fight? Yeah, I'll be at the fight. I was at the press conference yesterday. So, not press conference, weigh-in yesterday. So, the atmosphere, and I would say this, all of us come from London, we're used to big fight weeks. I have been really disappointed with the promotion out here, and I mean in the general public.
Really,
bro, I've been watching the sports channel all since I've been here. Since I've come here for the last 2 days, I've only seen one Errol Spence Terence Crawford advert, and I'm watching the sports channel. I've been up and down the Vegas Strip. I've probably seen 2 billboards.
Wow.
When I was coming through customs, I was saying I'm here for the fight. The person didn't even know what fight I was talking about. So this is what I'm talking about. The overall fanfare for boxing out here is a little bit disappointing. It's not like what we get when we're in it's AJ's fight.
Why, sorry to interrupt you, just very
No,
quickly.
go ahead.
That's why when the American fighters come here, they always talk about the atmosphere in Britain. Always. Male and female. Yeah, they always say the atmosphere in Britain is second to none for boxing.
The atmosphere in the arena, sorry to cut you off though, the atmosphere in the arena was really good. Like the Omaha fans and the Texas fans, they pulled up, they showed up, and in the arena they were making the noise. They don't have the same like cheering like we do, but they were out there and they were supporting. So
let's get some knowledge and wisdom from my dad, man, because obviously you've been following this sport for so many years. Me and Shane have too, but you've got a wealth of experience and knowledge in this thing. Just give us your thoughts in comparison to other huge fight nights. Like, I wasn't really there for the huge super fights in the 80s, for example. The 90s didn't really catch much of it, but from then onwards I did. But in terms of, you know, what you're used to with the massive fights like the Hagler Hearns and, you know, the De La Hoya Trinidads and the Lewis Tysons, everything else, like, what's your feeling with this in comparison to those nights? Are you getting the same sort of feeling your end?
Most definitely, yeah. And I would agree with you that this is easily the biggest fight since 2015. I agree with Shane that Manny Pacquiao, to me, was never, ever going to beat Floyd. It was just all the people that hated Floyd thought that Manny might have a puncher's chance. But deep down, if you knew your boxing, you knew that Manny Pacquiao was not going to beat Floyd. So I do agree with Shane that. And even the Lewis Tyson, I've spoken about this before, to Shane, similar type of thing. Anybody that really knew anything about boxing knew that Mike Tyson didn't have a chance against Lewis. And you saw what happened in the fight. He smoked him. But this is a genuine 50-50. This is a genuine big fight. And this fight, I mean, I'm old enough to remember these things, reminds me of Sugar Ray Leonard versus Tommy Hearns. Now, it's a little bit different insofar as when Sugar Ray Leonard and Tommy Hearns fight, they were smoking hot. I think they was in their early 20s or mid-20s, something like that. Whereas these guys were obviously a lot more advanced in age. But certainly in terms of how they match up skill-wise and the interest in the fight and all the rest of it, I would have to go back as far as that, to be honest. And that's a long time ago. You're talking 80s for that, you know what I mean? So yeah, man, this fight ticks all the boxes. Two great fighters, and made the best man win. And I would say as well, and I had a big discussion with Shane about this earlier. We got heated, but Shane's my guy, man. You know what I mean? But we do have disagreements. I'm like disappointed in people that are proclaiming Nia Inoue to be pound for pound number one. And this fight ain't taken place yet, because to me, these two guys' resumes are superior to Inoue. Certainly Crawford is. So if Spence was to do a number on Crawford tonight, or even vice versa, surely they got to be number one, because the resumes of both these guys are superior to Inoue. Yes, Inoue's jumped up in weight, 4-weight world champion. Can't argue with that. He's a great fighter, a generational talent. But if you look at the guys he's beaten, they're not on the same level as the guys that Crawford and Spence have beaten. So they certainly are worthy of being in the discussion. So let's wait until this fight takes place. The two best fighters in the world, or two of the most best fighters in the world. Then after that, then we can say definitively who is pound for pound number one, in my view.
Shane, I'll say this for you, yeah? Now, I want to get the feeling amongst the fans and the crowd out there in terms of who, I know you've said earlier that it's a 50-50 and everything else, but I've had a look at some of the picks from certain publications. I've had a look at some picks online, and the feeling I'm getting is, while a lot of people are acknowledging that this is really a pick and fight, I always see the majority of picks I'm seeing the ultimate winner being Crawford, despite them saying earlier on that it's 50-50, it's close, but if you put a gun to my head, I'll say Crawford. Are you getting that feeling out there in Vegas as well?
It's funny because I said the same thing, and I'm pretty sure you didn't get it from me, but I said on DR Sports, if you put a gun to my head, I'll say Crawford. I've slightly changed my prediction, but we'll get onto that. In terms of the general consensus out here, and I hope you don't mind me saying this, every non-black person has picked Crawford. Every non-black person has picked Crawford. And for whatever reason, I don't know. But so most people are 50-50. But then what I've realized is both of these guys have a really good cult following. So if you've traveled from Texas, there's no way you're going to travel from Texas and say Crawford's going to win. If you traveled from, I remember I spoke to Ford, Coach Ford, Tank Davis's coach, yesterday, and he was saying to me, I don't know who's going to win. It's just, I genuinely don't know. And he's the only person that I've spoken to, and I've spoken to multiple dudes since I've been out here. He's the only person that I've spoken to who said he doesn't know. And I would say more people are leaning towards Crawford, but I genuinely believe that's because it's the safe bet. And it's the safe prediction. Why? Because let's be honest, Crawford has the punching power and the technical ability. Not saying Spence doesn't, but because Crawford could win both ways, and I think a lot of people who don't understand boxing properly, they think the only way Spence can win is if he uses his size and his weight and knocks him out. And I think that's not actually using your boxing eye, but a lot of people are just going safe and saying, it's the betting favorite, so I'm going to go with Crawford. But I feel like it is one of those 50-50 fights. And I think people are being forced into making a prediction.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you how I feel about it as we go, and then I'll get on to you, Laurie. For me, I've had so many different scenarios playing out today. I've looked at, I've had the time today, so I've had to look at, previous fights. I saw Spence against Ugas. I saw Crawford against Jeff Horn, Crawford against Avanesyan, Crawford against Kell Brook. Then I watched Spence against Brook again. And for me, the only concern is with me is that Spence, we know what he's going to do. I think it's quite clear what he's going to do. He said it pretty openly. I don't think he has too much variety in terms of what he does, but what he does very well. Whereas Crawford, I think the reason why people are maybe siding with him, if they had to pick, is because that he's got a bit more variety. It's because that he's got the one-punch knockout power. And it's because Errol Spence has been hit. But what other people will say is that Crawford will not face the type of pressure against Spence as he has against everybody else. So you've got a bigger man wearing you down, whacking shots to the body and head. He's going to be leaning on you. He's going to be onto you. And you're going to get touched a lot more than you normally are. And we've seen that Crawford can get wobbled as well. I mean, against Kavliauskas, that was a knockdown, but it didn't count. So, yeah, something's got to give. But I think that the variety of Crawford, the fact that Crawford can switch hit, box and move, knock you out if he needs to, and he's got that mean streak in him, I think, Laurie, that might be why people are slightly edging him if they had to pick a winner.
Yeah, I can understand why people would go for Crawford because let's be honest, man, his resume is better than Spencer's, isn't it? I mean, you're talking about a fighter that's come up 3 weight divisions. He started at lightweight, won a world title there, beat Ricky Burns comfortably in away territory, went up to light welterweight, cleaned out that division, stepped up to welterweight, beat Jeff Horn, who was coming off the back of a very good win against Manny Pacquiao. Beat him, let's face it, beat him easy, beat him up, took his title, stopped him. And he's been on a tear ever since, stopped everyone he's fought at welterweight.
And the likes for likes, he's been better as well. Like,
well, if you look at their common opponents, he's done better against those
take
guys.
that into consideration, considering Spence got through them first.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but I'm just saying, if you look at their common opponents, he seems to have better performances against those two. But then when you're fighting a fighter like Errol Spence, man, who's unbeaten himself, so he doesn't know how to lose. Errol Spence is if you listen to what people say about Errol Spence, they always talk about how prodigious his strength and pressure fighting is and his stamina. And those are things that could very well give Crawford a lot of trouble, you know what I mean? Because he's not been in with anyone like Errol Spence before. Right. You know what I mean? So that straight away, you're thinking that gives him a bit of an advantage here. He's the bigger man. He's the stronger man. He's been fighting at welterweight for many a year. And I've done my research on Errol Spence. I mean, even the other day, I heard a story from somebody who was a neutral. They'd been in camp with Spence before, and they said what surprised, the person was saying, what surprised him about Errol Spence was the stamina. They were saying sometimes he does up to 22 rounds sparring, you know what I mean? And they bring in different sparring partners, heavier guys, but they progress them. So in other words, he starts off with the lighter guys, and then as he's supposed to be getting tired, they bring in guys like Charlo.
That's incredible.
Heavyweights. And he's even knocking some of these guys out. So he's a big dude for welterweight, so you can't discount that. But I do understand why people would make Crawford favourite, because as Shane quite rightly said, he seems to have more ways to win than Spence would. And that's not to denigrate or diminish Spence's skills, because he has very good skills. But Crawford seems to have that kind of special generational talent type of skill. The switching in movement and stuff like that.
I brought up a point to one of my, and this is why, obviously there was something else, but this is why I've changed my prediction. Because when you got 2 top level fighters, and anyone asks me for my entire time, for the last 5 years, I've always said Crawford, and I've changed. When you've got 2 top, no matter what sport it is, whether it's football, boxing, cricket, tennis, and you've got 2 guys who are at this equivalent level, they're both A-class fighters. It's just the small margins that make a difference. Just the small margins that make a difference. And here is why I think Spence might win this fight. Because at some stage in this fight, they're gonna have a tear up. And they're gonna let because it's natural, they're gonna let their emotions get into the fight. And for me, it's about what coach can reel their fighter back in and say, stick back to the game plan. And for me, I'm telling you this based on what I've seen and based on history. I feel like Derek James has a much better control of Spence than Bomac has of Crawford. If you've been looking at it, Bomac has almost bought into the hype a bit, in terms of you've seen him get riled up a bit. You've seen him almost get a bit frustrated, and it's almost like you want someone in that camp to be slightly level-headed, because Crawford has been also heated and riled up and aggressive and annoyed, and you want someone in that camp to be slightly level-headed. I met Bomac yesterday. He was cool, very nice person to speak to, and we had a very good exchange. But I'm not saying that Bomac isn't a better coach or one's better than the other. I just think under the lights, you need someone to say, let me reel you in and control your emotions so the occasion don't get to you. If you look at Crawford's fights, 90% of the time it's his mind that figures it out. It isn't an in-corner instruction, it's his mind that figures it out. This is what I need to do. You're going to need that additional assistance in this fight. And I just feel like that small margin, the fact that I think Derek James has a slightly better control over Errol Spence to control him under the lights in round 8, round 9, round 10, when it starts to get a bit heated and you start to get yourself into a fight that you don't want to get into. All of a sudden, you need that guy. Get back on your jab. Focus. You need someone to do that. And I don't think he has that. I think he's got that slight advantage, Errol Spence. I'm just being honest. I think he's got that slight advantage.
Got some questions here. Francisco says, Shane, who is the Philly crew backing? We've got Rilo who's saying who has the better chin, and Modern King Boxing said Derek James was spicy the other day. So let's go back to Francisco's question. Who is the Philly crew backing, man? Because yeah, they're not from Nebraska, they're not from Texas. So who are they backing?
Most people I've spoken to are backing Spence. One of the dudes who I spoke to yesterday, obviously I explained him the weigh-in situation, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm definitely going Spence." So
that was interesting. That was interesting, that weigh-in situation, because all week people have been saying that Errol Spence might struggle to make the weight. He might look drained. But I said to Daryl, and I said this to Shane as well, I'd noticed that Crawford had looked a bit drawn in the days preceding the fight. And then we come to find out that he missed the weight. He actually, because the weight that we saw on TV and online yesterday, that's what they call a ceremonial weight. They're adopting the UFC practice now, whereby they have the weigh-ins behind closed doors, and then they have a ceremonial weigh-in once the fighters have made the weight. Now, I'm reliably informed, and again, I spoke to Shane about this morning, and he confirmed that Terence Crawford missed the weight, and I'm hearing he missed it twice.
I don't really want to get into it too much because obviously, but when you say it's behind closed doors, firstly, MGM, you need to improve your security, bro. So it was behind closed doors, but on the other end of that door, I was there. I swear on everything that I own, if I'm lying, I'm dying. I was standing outside of that door when everyone was weighing in. No need to have all the pictures and camera, like, of all of it. I was standing outside, and I don't know if he missed it twice. Let's just put it this way. Crawford and Spence weighed in first, and the last person to leave was Crawford. Let's just put it that way. I know for a fact that I don't know how much times he weighed in, but the first time he weighed in, it went 147. I literally knew all the weight classes before the ceremonial weigh-in. Like, I had them all written down on my phone.
You could have had your phone out, and it could have made a lot of money with a video with that.
I'm not that kind of person, you know. I'm not going to do that.
You did the right thing.
But obviously,
yeah, go on, Shay, carry on.
I was going to say, obviously, a lot of people were talking about whether the weight was going to be a problem for Errol. From what I heard, and from what, again, I'm standing on the other side of the door. So how it works is, so they will weigh in, the officials outside. So they will weigh in and then they'll run out and write on the paper. But if you miss weight, or if you got the weight, they'll be like, okay, let's say, for example, Pitbull was 134.6. So the guy will say 134.6. So when it was Crawford's turn, he came out and we're standing literally on the other side of the door so we can hear what they're saying. So
okay, before I get into this question about who has the better chin, Himanshu says here, how did he make weight within minutes then? Like,
it wasn't within minutes. Like, okay, I'll put it this way: the official weigh-in was at 11 o'clock. I didn't leave the outside of that door until 12:30. So, and at that time, he hadn't even his official weight didn't even come up yet. So that should tell you. I didn't leave that door until 12:30. I even have a message where I was messaging someone at 12:30, and I was still outside the front door. So it wasn't in a matter of minutes.
That's quite surprising that he missed weight, you know, because everybody was saying that it's going to be Spence that would
again.
In the way.
I don't know what he actually weighed in, and it might not even. I don't know what he actually. I know he weighed in 146.8, but official with his first one, I don't know what it was. But I do have to say this: Devin Haney missed weight 4 times before the Loma fight. So if you look at someone like Devin Haney, he missed weight 4 times before the Loma fight. So you can still miss weight and perform. So
I mean, they've got 24 hours to rehydrate. So you know,
I still think he looked phenomenal on the scale to me.
Yeah, he did.
Right.
He did.
Facts.
So,
Facts.
quick answer there. Who's got the better chin then? Who has the better chin out of Spence and Crawford?
Spence.
As my right is asking
No,
here.
I'd have to say Spence, man.
Spence.
I'd have to say
Spence. Spence.
Is that because Crawford got dropped against Kavliauskas? Got wobbled against Gamboa?
It's just more tested. It's just more tested.
I mean, Spence has, in the Ugas fight, he looked like he got wobbled. But then we found out, and I do believe his story about his concern about his bridge, his teeth. And then he got hit with a shot and he kind of went off balance into the ropes. Sean Porter looked like he rocked him on a couple of occasions. And if you go as far back as a Campo, when he fought a Campo, even though he got him out of there within a round, he did get stunned briefly in that fight as well. So listen, they both can be hurt. But if you had to press me, I would say that Spence looks to have the more sturdy chin. But then I would say that perhaps Crawford is the slightly bigger puncher.
Especially on a single shot, definitely.
Yeah. And I think Crawford, what makes him such a devastating finisher is that he's very accurate with his follow-up shots. So a bit like what Inoue did the other day. Once he hurt Fulton, there was no escape because the follow-up punches all landed.
Yeah,
Crawford is excellent now.
It's like, would you want a striker that scores 5 out of 10 shots, or a striker that scores 3 out of 4 shots? You know, like, in my opinion, obviously Errol Spence is going to give you more. His punch output's higher, so he's going to give you more. But I would say Terence Crawford's a little bit more prolific. You know, he's a little bit more surgical with his finishing ability. So,
and
let me say this quickly about the actual fight itself. Now, I was thinking about ways how this fight could go. I just want to hear what you both have to say about it. So I did say it, Laurie, on our preview show on DR and on this channel as well that we did. But I'm thinking about the fight, and I'm thinking about, what if Crawford, who tends to be a slow starter, starts slow tonight? Can he afford to go a couple of rounds down and chase the fight against the house fighter in Errol Spence, who does throw a lot more punches? But then when I flip it and I think about, the dangers for Errol Spence, if he continues to march forward like he does and he leaves himself susceptible to the counter, which we have seen him get caught, despite him having a good chin, how dangerous is that against somebody like Crawford, who could lure you in and catch you in for a shot while you're coming in? What is the biggest danger there? Are those the two biggest dangers to them guys? Blood starting off slow, Spence getting caught with something?
I think Spence needs to more worry about loading up on body shots. I said this on the live the other day. I said exchanging a body shot for a headshot isn't a good exchange rate. You don't come out better off. And with someone who's so good at timing you, when you load up for a body shot, 9 times out of 10, your hands aren't home up here. Your body isn't in the right position. So if you're loading up on a body shot and a dude exchanges with you and he's loading up on a headshot, if we both land, you're going on the floor before I do. You see what I'm saying? So I think that's a problem for Spence, just loading up on body shots. But I think the problem for Terence Crawford, again, I feel like if he allows Errol Spence to dictate the pace of the fight early, and then he's going to be in trouble. Because I know if it goes into deep water, Errol Spence is more accustomed to a high-speed chess match. Terence Crawford will figure you out, and then you play to his tune. But he's not going to have that time. He's going to have to hit Spence with something early just to stop him from just walking through. Because if he doesn't, Spence will dictate the pace of the fight. And he's like a freight train. Once they start, they're not stopping.
Yeah, that's true. If he gets into a rhythm, he'll be very hard to stop. And Errol Spence, like you said, he's got that legendary stamina that people talk about in the gyms and so forth. And let's be honest, Errol Spence has made no secret of the fact of what his tactics are going to be tonight. He said he's going to turn this into a war of attrition, and he's used the phrase time and time again, and I do believe him. Sometimes when you hear fighters come out with their strategy beforehand, people say, oh, they're bluffing, just double bluff, blah, blah, blah. But with Spence, he said, I'm going to break him. Because I think he knows that if it's a distance boxing match, his chances of winning are less likely. However, he's going to look to use his size and strength, back up Crawford, move in behind the jab, not recklessly, come in behind the jab, go to the body where he can and let his punches go, push Crawford back, show him that he's stronger and more physical. Now, that is easier said than done because we know that Crawford does have strength. We know, for example, as well that he used to do wrestling back in the day, so he can take care of himself on the inside. But I'm pretty sure that's what Spence's game plan is going to be. And again, I'll just allude back to the Inoue Fulton fight the other day. Remember before the fight, when we were talking, we all agreed that if Fulton was going to win the fight, he would have to impose his size and his physicality over Inoue, which he was never able to do. In fact, when we did the live stream chain for that fight, we all said after the first round, pretty much towards the end of that first round, when I saw Inoue backing up Fulton, deep down I knew he was going to lose, because there's no way he was going to win off the back foot. And it's the same with Spence. He's not going to beat Crawford off the back foot. If he's going to win tonight, he's going to, even if it's not in the first 2 rounds, but at some point, he's going to have to put his flag in the sand and back Crawford up. That's the only way he can win.
I don't... Go on.
Shane, yeah, I'll go to you, but answer this first before you go. What stance is Crawford going to start off with tonight?
Bro, you're sick. You're sick, because I was literally gonna speak about that. You're sick. I was gonna say,
I'm saying southpaw, but go on.
Crawford has to fight southpaw all the way through. He has to fight southpaw. He can't switch. Reason being is because if you understand southpaw versus southpaw, Errol Spence isn't used to fighting other southpaws. He's used to fighting orthodox. But Errol Spence has a better jab than Crawford. People might not believe this. Errol Spence has the better jab than Crawford. His understanding of distance and range is amazing. So you're not going to beat him off the jab, especially if you're orthodox. But what Crawford does have better than Spence is he has better foot placement and footwork. So obviously, you got to make Spence put his foot in the right place. The only thing that's going to counter Errol Spence's jab is if Crawford's leading with his strong right hand. Crawford's power shot is that right hand. This is his strongest shot. So if his strongest shot is against Errol Spence's strongest shot, that's your best chance. You're not going to catch him orthodox southpaw. You're not going to catch him on the way in, because he's always coming behind that jab, behind the straight, behind the jab and behind the straight left. He doesn't throw wild. So for me, Crawford needs to worry about his foot placement. Forget the jab, foot placement, southpaw versus southpaw. And let's see.
You say that, but if you look at the tail of the tape, which I've studied, you will see that Crawford, even though he's a couple of inches shorter, he actually has the longer reach. Only by
but he doesn't have the better understanding of distance at long range. So therefore, you're not going to beat him with the jab. He's got a better understanding.
I would say that Spencer's got the better jab because he uses it more when he fights. So yeah, but yeah, that was an interesting side note. Crawford,
you know what shot is going to be key for Crawford? The wide slapping right hand, the lead right hand that he throws.
I would say the uppercut. He throws a devastating uppercut, man. The shot he knocked out Benavidez with, that's Crawford, by the way.
The reason
that shot, man, he lands a lot with it. He landed a lot with it on Sean Porter as well.
The reason why I was saying that is because when he throws that slapping right hand, and you might see him, he threw it a lot against Jeff Horn and Victor Postal a lot, it centers his opponent. So it automatically takes away Errol Spence's jab, because you're throwing it and you center it, because it comes from outside of your peripheral towards you. So every time you center yourself, every time that lead right hand is thrown. And for me, that's the shot that I want to see him throw, because it will just offset Errol Spence's foot placement, and it allows Crawford to pivot off to the left or off to the right, depending on where Spence is, because he's got better foot placement than Spence.
Let's get into the predictions, man. I'm going to start off with mine, and then we'll go to you, Shane, and then you, Laurie. So for me, I'm going to say my prediction right here, right now. I'm going to nail it right here. For those of you that haven't seen the DR Sports show that myself and Laurie did, go check it out on my channel and on the DR Sports channel. But my official prediction, I'm going to say first of all that I love both of these guys. They're both two of my favorite fighters today. Like, I would not root for anybody else over them. So this for me really is it. Like, these two are my actual favorite fighters. I want to get that out there. Gun to my head, who I want to win, I have to go with the Jamaican in me, and I have to roll with Errol Spence, like in terms of who I want to win. But who I think will win, I do think that it really is 50-50, 51-49. But if you put a gun to my head and ask me who I think would win, I have to edge Crawford, simply because of the little bit of variety that he does have. The fact that he can switch hit. the fact that he may have more ways to win. What they're both doing is very good at what they do. Spence is brilliant at what he does. Crawford is brilliant at what he does. But I just think there's a little bit more tools in his bag to get the win. I'm not saying that that will happen, but if you put a gun to my head, I'm saying Crawford to edge it. But I really don't know. It's that close, and it's one that I can't say very confidently as to who I think would win. But I want Spence to do it. I'm riding with him tonight, but I think that Crawford might edge this. Shane, let me know what you think.
In my opinion, I'm going to sleep easy regardless. So if Crawford wins, I'm going to sleep easy. If Spence wins, I'm going to sleep easy. I don't have anyone who I overwhelmingly want to win. I think that's one of the reasons why I'm here, because there was never going to be I was never going to be upset with an outcome unless you got like a no contest, God forbid, like a head clash and there was a no contest. I would be furious. But if you were to ask me who I think is going to win, I've always said it's 50-50, and I've always slightly leaned towards Crawford. But I buy into like small advantages. Like I think the small advantages are going to be where it makes a difference. And it's funny because I slightly lean, and I mean like 49.5%, 51.5% lean, or 50 whatever, lean towards Spence. Slightly. Just
50.
because
50.5.
yeah, whatever it is, I slightly lean towards Spence. But I'm telling you, I can give you technically 4 methods of how both dudes win the fight by points and by stoppage. So, but I just ever so slightly lean towards Spence.
Laurie, at the beginning of the show, Francisco, who is a regular contributor, shout out to him, man. Love having him on here. And he does contribute to the other show as well. He said at the beginning that we want to hear your thoughts on this. We want you to nail
final prediction.
Yeah, your final prediction. Not I want this guy to do it or I'm rooting for this guy. Right? We want to hear what you think, because you know this, man. So we need to hear your final opinion as to who is going to win. Not who you want to win, not who you think like, yeah, I'm riding with him because of it. Who you think will win. If you had a gun to your head, and I don't want that to ever happen, who would you think would win? Who are you picking?
Well, yeah, I mean, listen, man, you guys have nailed it. It's such a difficult fight to predict because there is the heart and head factor in it. It's not like other fights where you think, yeah, he's going to win and you can just address it in that kind of cold light of day. With this one, it does weigh heavily on my heart. I am physically and emotionally invested in both fighters. I like both of them. And then, like you said, there's obviously that cultural heritage with Spence being of Jamaican heritage, and so are we. So naturally, you'd want to see him do well. However, when this fight was first made, I was leaning towards Crawford. And I guess if I'm going to be honest, I've got to go with my head and say Crawford. But, and I'm not changing my prediction, it would not surprise me if Spence won at all. I think there are pathways for both guys to win this fight. I think whoever wins, it's going to be by points. I've seen a lot of people predicting Crawford by stoppage. I don't see him stopping Spence. He might put him down or he might hurt him, but I don't think he'll get him out of there because I think Spence is one of the strongest physically and sturdiest at this division. Probably is the sturdiest. So if anyone was going to get stopped, it would be Crawford, not Spence. But I do think it's going to go to points. I think it's going to be very close. And the one thing I would say is that whatever happens, I don't want to see a decision whereby us three the next day are saying, "Nah, man, how could the judges do that?" You know what I mean? I want it to be fair. You know
what else I don't want to see?
The reason why
I don't want to see.
I say that as well is because this is going to be a very closely contested fight. It's the biggest fight of the last 20 odd years or whatever. We don't want to be talking about judges tomorrow. We want to be talking about skills, action, and incidents, because there will be ebb and flow in this fight. That's what we want to be talking about. We don't want to be talking about Spence getting a decision because he's with the PBC and all that type of stuff. You know what I mean? So I'm really hoping against hope that the judges are not the talking point tomorrow.
Shane, don't you think if this is a close fight, because like what you just said there, you think it will be close, but you think Bud will win it. Don't you think that if this is a close fight, that might favour Spence, considering he is the bigger name and the house fighter?
I would have if the rematch clause wasn't already put in the contract. You see what I'm saying? The rematch clause is already in there, so it's not like they have to do that just to keep the fight in house. The rematch is already negotiated and done. What I will say is, if whoever does win, I don't want us as fans, and I know we won't do it, but we've seen it already many times. Oh, if Crawford wins, Spence was trash. If Spence wins, Crawford. You know, we see that all the time, bro. We see that all the time. Like, people always quick to trash someone because they lose, and if you lose, you're all of a sudden not a good fighter anymore. I don't want to
We
see
saw that the other day with Fulton. I couldn't believe
exactly.
it. Afterwards, everyone was criticising Fulton. Why don't they just say that Inoue appears to be a once-in-a-lifetime generational talent? He's already a great fighter, and great fighters beat very good fighters. That's what that's the natural order of things. So I agree with Shane. You know what I mean? I don't want to see anybody trashing either side. And I don't want to see the judges, like I said, unduly influence this fight. Let the best man win, and don't take the cop out of giving a draw if it's close. You know what I mean?
I was thinking that as well.
Yeah, because you know what I mean. That's because if it's a draw, then they're guaranteed to fight again, and blah blah blah. We don't want that, man. We want to see who wins this fight. I think that
you guys think there's going to be a knockdown in this fight?
It wouldn't surprise me because essentially, the way both fighters are going to be approaching this fight is, man, they're going to want it to be decisive. They're going to be extra energy involved.
Crawford's been down unofficially.
Unofficially, Crawford's been down, but officially, neither of them have they?
Nah.
But Crawford is punching real hard at this weight, man. Crawford is punching real hard at welterweight.
Well, listen, man, I think we'll wrap it up there. But, you know, listen, guy, I'm really excited about this. I want to shout out everybody in the chat. Shane's out there in Vegas, man. What's your, you know, we need to hear your routine for today, man. I mean, what do you do today? Like, where do you go? What do you do? Do you just hang up at the T-Mobile Arena? What time is it? What is it? 10 o'clock?
10:42. So I'm definitely going to go to the MGM. I'm going to the MGM at some stage today. Then I'm going to the T-Mobile. The reason I'm going to the MGM is because all the fighters, celebrities are all there. They're all staying at the MGM, so that's where I'm going. We saw Evander Holyfield. I've seen so many dudes here since I've been here. And then once the fight over,
Jamal Charlo?
No, I saw him at the T-Mobile Arena though. I saw him at the T-Mobile Arena.
Tell the people a little bit about that, because you were telling me you've got some insights into how all that started. So tell the people, man, because I think they'll be interested to learn how it started.
So it's funny because, like, I've heard like different stories, but basically, just to cut it short, I'll talk about the things that I know happened. So one thing that I definitely do know happened is Jamal Charlo put his hands on Caleb Plant first. That's what I know happened. Jamal Charlo, big Charlo put his hands on Caleb Plant first. That's what I know happened. I also know that the original bickering incident had something to do with Jamal Charlo, and their wives. That's what I know how it started. Now, I don't know. I'm not going to get into people's domestics, but I know there was and then Caleb Plant got his. I know Jamal Charlo put his hand in Caleb Plant's face. I don't know whether
Caleb Plant, the two women were about to start fighting, and he tried to break them up. He was trying to de-escalate the situation, and then what I heard was Jamal Charlo then put his hands on Caleb Plant, pushed him in his face aggressively.
Like push him in his face like this.
Yeah,
and even Derek James has done an interview with Radio Raheem, and he was saying that you can look at it in a certain way as justified. Like, it's justified that Caleb Plant slapped him in the face, which, I mean, if Derek James is saying that, then I guess it's justified.
But I'm just gonna say, right? You know how you two know how I feel about the Charlos. I don't like those guys. The way that, well, let me put it like this: I don't like the way they carry themselves, man. They're both excellent fighters, especially Jamel. But both of them have got some energy, man, that is way off. And they've been going around punking people now for a long time. They did it with Jared Hurd. They did it as far back as with Danny Jacobs. They did it with David Benavidez, his dad. They rolled up on him. You know what I mean? They're loud. They're aggressive. They did it to Adrian Broner and Tank that time. They're just obnoxious, bro. And this was always going to happen to one of them. So me personally, good on Caleb Plant. I'm not advocating violence, by the way, but I can hardly feel sorry for Jamal Charlo. And now people are coming now and saying, yeah, he's clearly got mental health issues. But then if that's the case, then why is he coming to these events? And every time he comes to these events, you always get that type of energy from him. And yesterday, the bully got served. So well
The
done.
lead left hook was fast, though. That lead left hook was rapid.
Oh, man, that was a shock.
Are you concerned at all about, you know, the fact that the whole world is watching this? You know, it's a huge event. We want it to be a good show. Crawford did warn, well, he did kind of reach out to
about these African Americans always creating violence.
Yeah, just are we concerned that, you know, we don't want it to anything to overshadow this great event?
You know what I would say about that, there is a little bit of truth in it, but let's be honest, man. Even this country, when you get big fights, or even not big fights in this country, how many times does it kick off between the fans? I just think in America, the risk is a little bit more because there's guns at play here, you know what I mean?
Not just that, but fighters are so accessible, bro. I've never seen this in my life. Like I saw Jesse Vargas yesterday. This dude was standing in line to buy a packet of Oreos. Literally, there's about 5-10 people in the line. Like I'm thinking, bro, this guy had no security, no nothing. I'm just thinking,
yeah, I've said that before as well. Boxers are very accessible. They're very friendly to fans for the most part, except if your name is Charlo. You know what I mean? Because remember when he slapped the phone out the fan's hand?
Yeah.
One of the Canelo fights he was at. The guy just just trying to take a selfie. He just come past and, nah, man, those guys' behaviour has been rotten now for years, bro. So him getting dealt with like that yesterday, I know I shouldn't.
Chicken's coming home to roost.
Yeah, I know I shouldn't really be doing this, but I've got absolutely no sympathy for him at all. That's what these guys do. Both of them. They
Quick thoughts on the undercard tonight. You guys looking forward to the undercard? Pitbull on there.
No need to the nail specifically. No need to the nail will be the oldest bantamweight champion of all time if he wins. You know, so
yeah.
Look, I mean,
he does win, actually. He seems like an all-round good guy.
You know, he took out time. We were talking to him yesterday, and the truth is, he's a clean professional, and he's definitely done things the right way in boxing. And to be honest with you, I mean, he's already at legendary status, but I just feel like, you know, I think he deserves the win tomorrow.
It's amazing how he's still around, because I can remember he was talking about retirement when he got stopped by Nicholas Waters, and that was years ago. Remember that? Because Nicholas Waters really put it on him, man. Whatever happened to him, by the way? I mean, Nicholas Waters. Anyone out there in the comments, let us know. After he got beat by Lomachenko, man, that was it.
Daniel Chambers has said, "Hey, big up you guys." Laurie, will there be a watch along tonight?
There will be, indeed. There will be. We're doing one on DR Sports, so please, everybody, make sure you tune in. We're live in the studio. Myself, Nick Francis, and James Toon. Obviously, Shane, he's out there in Vegas doing the real thing, so he won't be with us. But yeah, man, we're gonna have some fun with it tonight. Like I said, man, I can't wait for this, man. I'm excited. I might even go to the gym after this just to get, you know what I mean, just to get rid of some.
Laurie, go sleep and wake up just in time for the fight.
I'll be doing that as well. I'll be doing. Yeah, my plan is to maybe go to the gym for an hour or so, have a little workout, have a shower, obviously, come back, eat some food, and then have a little lie down, and then get up, man, and then get down to the studio for the live show, and probably catch the Pitbull and the Nonito Dinier fights, and then we're into the big one. I just hope that they don't do tonight what they did, Shane, the other day when we had to wait ages.
No,
that was an hour and a half of my life that I won't get back. Just wait. They kept showing reruns of Naya Inoue beating up on guys instead of, you know what I mean?
Well, the estimated ring walk time tonight for you guys in the chat, and for anyone that didn't know, is apparently 4 o'clock. Apparently it's 4 a.m.
But they said a similar thing about the Inoue fight.
I find that difficult to believe. I find that very difficult to believe, because I think you might want to add an hour to that. Reason being is because I don't know what times the time difference is, but this is me talking to people here, I thought the fight was starting at 10:30 p.m. So just by that
It's
math,
8 hours over. It's 8 hour
yeah.
difference.
So 10:30 p.m. I think is 5:30 when the fight's gonna start. So I don't know. Maybe if they do a ring walk at 5 o'clock, maybe they're gonna be in the ring for an hour and a half, doing nothing.
Yeah, I reckon that you're looking at like 5:30 before that fight gets underway, man.
Yeah.
It's definitely not starting at 9. I know that for a fact. It's starting at 10:30 at the very earliest here.
Yeah. I mean, the one thing I would say is that the other day with the Fulton and Inoue fight is that not only did you have to wait, there was a big hiatus. There was no fights in between, you know what I mean? So you were just watching reruns of Inoue, well, of his fights from 2-3 years ago, which, come on now, you know what I mean? Like, but anyway, we hope that
Himanshu's over there in India. He's got it good, bro. It's 9 a.m. in India when that fight. That's perfect. You know what I mean? 9 a.m.
Calm, light work.
Wake up, have a shower, you know, have a nice sleep tonight, and then the fight. That's perfect.
Ask your dad if he's watching the cricket. I saw West Indies was getting destroyed.
Yeah, West Indies don't have a cricket team anymore, man. They're an embarrassment. You know what I mean? They're an embarrassment now. When you compare to what they were back in the day when I was watching cricket and playing cricket, the drop-off is probably one of the biggest drop-offs in all of sports. That was a team, Shane, your dad will tell you, used to dominate the sport. And when I say dominate, you know, I mean dominate. And now to see where they are, it's beyond sad. It's beyond sad. But anyway, to get back to this fight tonight, man, I'm hearing as well that regardless of how the result goes, if there's a rematch, it's going to be at 154 because Errol Spence has said on the record that despite what happens in this fight tonight, he's moving up to 154. So that tells you that obviously had a lot of difficulty making the weight for this fight.
Well, another way you can look at it is these guys don't want to fight Boots. I mean, a lot of people, and I'm telling you, a lot of people are saying that Boots is the boogeyman in that division. I'm not.
He is.
I think he might be. I mean, you've got to look at it. I saw Andre Ward interview on Fight Hype. Very, very good. Him breaking down the fight. I'd definitely recommend you guys watching it. He did bring up Boots, and you know they look at it like this: when you're in your 30s, you're making this kind of money for this sort of fight here. There's a rematch clause as well that you could potentially have. Do you go up against a young lion in Boots who is so dangerous and the money's not going to be as much at this stage of your career? Do you do that, or do you search for, you know? So it's
Boots is a beast. I had the privilege to see him in camp like 3 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, and bro, this guy's an animal. He's an animal.
He's the next thing, man. I mean, especially with the unfortunate incidents surrounding Virgil Ortiz, I think that's pretty much it, especially for him at welterweight. I would even argue that his career, long-term career, is in question. So if you look at that welterweight division now, it's between
Boots versus Conor Ben. That's what you're going to see. Boots versus Conor Ben.
Yeah, do it. Yeah.
Don't do that to Conor Ben, man. The man just got his license back. You know what I mean? What are you trying to do? You know what I mean?
Let me get the final thought because we're going to wrap it up here. So let me get the final thoughts from you both on a magical night tonight. It promises to be.
Yeah, man.
Crawford for me, 115, 113.
I'm gonna say this is what I want to see because I'm here. So Bunny, I'm gonna keep my same prediction, but what I want to see is both of them get us knocked down at some stage in the fight. I want to see knockdowns today, so I'm here in the arena, so I want to see that both of them get knocked down in the fight. But I think Errol Spence is going to get it down the stretch, and yeah, I want to see a good fight though because I'm in the arena as well, bro. I want to see an amazing fight. That's what I want to see.
I think you're gonna get it, and I think you can see there with Laurie who he's rooting for tonight.
That's what I want. But the trouble in life, as you all know, you don't always get what you want. That's the thing. But then, listen, man, if Crawford does win, he's still one of my favourite fighters.
It could be an amazing night for Jamaican sport.
Yeah.
Could very well be.
I'll tell you now, a lot of people, right?
As well. I think we'll see the Jamaican flag in the ring there.
Oh, definitely. A lot of people, right? Like when you talk, right? You know what it's like when you got Jamaican heritage. People are quite patriotic over Jamaica like that. You know that, innit, Shane?
Yeah.
Anyone with Jamaican heritage will understand what I'm talking about. That runs deep. So whenever has got like that. Like, remember when Lennox was around? It was the same with Lennox. You always wanted Lennox to win because of that heritage.
That's my dad, bro. If if Lennox Lewis fought Jesus, I think my dad would want Lennox Lewis to win. My dad, bro.
And it's the same with like Jamaican people in this country. When Usain Bolt was running with the reggae boys, with the reggae girls, they're out there, man. And when you see Errol Spence's dad, which I'm sure he'll be in that corner tonight doing that. That will just get everybody amped up. But anyway, man.
I want Spence to win, bro. Come on. His dad reps Jamaica so much, bro. I can't come on.
Yeah. Well, listen, guys, we're going to wrap it up here, man. Don't forget, there's a watch along tonight on DR. We're going to do a post-fight reaction on this channel. Get some of the fans on as well. Hear their opinion. Shane, if you're about, hopefully we can get you on that as well.
Bro, I'm going to be hyped if I do come on still.
Yeah, we'll get you on, man. We will get you on for sure. But yeah, listen, we're going to wrap it up here.
Hey, Shane, get that phone out, man, and get some interviews.
What with fans?
Let me just say this quickly. Thanks to everyone in the chat for joining us. Leave your comments, drop a like, share the video, get it out there to everybody. And we'll catch you guys after the fight, man. Enjoy it. And we'll see you guys very soon.
Take care, man. Big up, Shane. Big up.